Hey there, Chief Meteorologist Kendra Kent here, and I am with Ben Dorenbach, and we are covering this storm as it is very, very close to landfall around Charleston. In fact, in the latest advisory, it is starting its northeasterly track up the coast, but it has been going north pretty much all night. So we were so close to seeing the storm barrel right into Charleston, but it does look like it might be just in time to either avoid landfall or make the landfall a little less from the north and more from the northeast as it slides over toward Charleston. Notice that we're still under hurricane warnings, Category 2 storm, still with 105-mile-per-hour winds. We haven't seen a huge weakening overnight at all. Not a very organized storm, though. And the worst of it is right along here with the eye wall, and that's sliding close to Charleston. So the conditions will deteriorate in Charleston in the next 2 to 3 hours. So really, I think that's when it's going to be at its worst. Beaufort, Hilton Head just getting slammed right now with that heavy rainfall. Let me get the warnings off there so you can see a little bit better. So there we go. It's heading up toward Charleston now. Reports have already seen quite a bit of flooding. Rivers around Charleston are already at, I believe, the third highest on record. Ben Dorenbach and I were talking about that. We've seen 11 inches of rain around Savannah and over 6 inches already in Charleston. So this is not a good situation where we still have some of the most torrential rain to get through. Now, luckily, a lot of we've gotten through, show you, this much in the way of rain around the Charleston area. But we still have to get through this. And this is going to be the worst in the way of the wind, the surge, and the rainfall rates. So it's going to be between now and 9 a.m. we'll really know what this is going to do to the low country, toward Beaufort, Hilton Head, and Charleston. Then after that, it'll stay gusty, but we'll end up with lighter winds on the back, or lighter rain on the back edge of this, and less rain and less wind. So that is crucial. We will get a break eventually, but those around the low country certainly just inundated with the rain and the surge and those incredibly strong winds. And let me show you what we're dealing with winds right now. Look at that. 48-mile-per-hour winds in Hilton Head, 43 in Charleston, 48 in Savannah. And I believe these are sustained winds. Gusts are even higher than that right now. And take a look at the totals that we've seen. Okay. Clearly our totals map is not updating because that's a bummer. We got to figure out why that's not updating. But we'll get that fixed for you before the 6 o'clock start to the show. But again, the big concern is going to be for storm surge going into the next few hours. It's already begun, the rising water. Luckily, high tide has passed, and we're going to be seeing it at a lower tide early in the morning. So that's one piece of good news. I'm here with Ben. He's been getting the latest information. I know you've been kind of comparing this to other storms too, and I see that, Folly has already seen 9.82 inches, Charleston over 6. And the worst is definitely not done.
No, especially not for Charleston. That was probably the most concerning thing that I saw, despite the number not being the highest in Charleston, just because, like Kendra said, we have yet to see the worst of that activity. And if you base that prediction on what Savannah's already gotten, which is 11 inches of rain, and bear in mind that Savannah's still getting in on some of the lighter wraparound moisture too, so it's still raining there, but the worst is probably over with there. So 6.62 inches of rain in Charleston was actually taken at 3:45 this morning, so that was a pretty old observation, and obviously the rain is still coming down really hard there. So 10 to 15 inches of rain in a lot of the SC coastal areas, definitely not out of the question. You've already seen it in Savannah. Folly Field just shy of 10 inches of rain, and Edisto just shy of 6 inches of rain. And again, these areas still have a lot to go in terms of the heavy rain. Obviously, some wind gusts that we've already seen. I'll go to the next graphic here and show you some of those. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't update the graphics. So, anyway, so what happens with the words there. But anyway, here's the graphic I was talking about. Had a 94-mile-per-hour gust at Tybee Island over there on the coast of Georgia. That's also where we had a record crest at Fort Pulaski, actually. So, not surprising. That's what happens when you have the heaviest rain and wind occur at high tide, which happened about 1:30 this morning. Charleston is actually third highest on record right now, and one thing I've noticed with Charleston is that one little bit of good news is that that river level has begun to go down. It was about 9.25 feet. Now we're talking about 8.3 feet. So luckily the rain isn't falling hard enough to where the level is still rising, even though the tide. High tide is passing,
Right.
the tide is falling.
It's not overcoming that, which is good.
Earlier, when we saw that Fort Pulaski reading, the level was still rising, even though high tide had already happened. So that's one big red flag that you look for when you're looking during these times of heavy rain and storm surge. So that was actually kind of relieving to see, just because Charleston already being at, 9.25 feet, give or take, and the record is 12.5 feet, which was set back at Hurricane Hugo back in '89. So I'm not saying we're not out of the woods for seeing that today, but record or not, we're still going to see some devastating flooding in Charleston, as we already are seeing a lot of reports of flooding in parts of downtown Charleston, and we're probably going to continue to see those reports come in. Our newsroom has been dealing with a lot of phone calls regarding that, of course, with our media partners down there too.
Right, absolutely. Well, we will keep you posted. We'll be on the air at 6 a.m. with the latest, so be sure to join us.